Hi, I'd like to start with one of my favorite Bible stories, and the one that I really take with me nowadays is the story of Job. Job was a man who was very well off, had a beautiful home, was fruitful with his spouse, had many children, and many farm animals, and just had a great life. And Satan approached the Lord and said, I believe that man is only faithful to you because you gave him so much. And the Lord said, I believe you're wrong. I think if I took that away from him, he would remain faithful. So the Lord set fire to his animals, set fire to his house, infested his family with boils, and after Job had lost everything, he kept his faith to the Lord and continued to renounce the devil and praise God. And I think, in fact, I know that's exactly what Ed did. He started out from humble beginnings, the first in his family to graduate college, and made a beautiful family and kept good morals and faith as a front line to pass along to his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. And I think I just want to say that the spirit of the Powers family has always been one of strength, dignity, courage, and above all, faith and love. And I know that if any of us, when we fall upon hard times, I know that if we look behind us, we won't only see one set of footprints, not two, but three. And that third one is the spirit of the Powers family. I love you all, and we can power through anything. We are some of the strongest people that I've ever known. And as we power through those moments, those hard times, we will continue to have faith. We will continue to love each other above all. And we will keep this family whole. And to Ed, I just want to say that you did an amazing job instilling those qualities in all of us. So, I love it.
Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Caroline. I am Richard's daughter. And I didn't know we were going to have this section, although it makes sense now that I think about it. And the day that Pop Pops passed away, I have this mailing list, as we call it, school, where I send out little short stories that I write to my friends. And on the day that he passed away, I was thinking about, of course I was thinking about him, and I was thinking about how he's the man who gave me the gift of storytelling. So I wrote a short eulogy for him that I sent out to the people who have subscribed to this little short story thing that I run. And once I heard that we were doing this, I was like, maybe I could read that here. So I'm gonna pull it up. Okay. When I was a kid, my grandpa would tell these stories every time we had dinner together. Sometimes they would end in a question, other times a joke, and sometimes there would even be a lesson hidden in there. I remember how he would count each of his fingers and somehow end up with 11. And my little eyes and little brain would have to figure out how this was possible. Eventually, I noticed that he'd quickly count the space in between his fingers, and everyone around the table would erupt in laughter as I left out this astonished gasp. Although this made it seem like a story on the outside, it was indeed a constructed narrative. The exposition, his tap on my shoulder, and the proposed question, how many fingers do I have? The rising action, me, time and time again, counting 10, then watching him count 11, then becoming very, very confused. And the climax, I discovered the ruse, victory's mine, I was correct all along. The theme of this story is not everything is as it seems, and I should trust myself to eventually find the truth. When I think think of who I am and where I come from, I think of stories, humor, and even occasionally tomfoolery. There is no doubt that in the Powers family, we have gained our penchant for such things from my grandfather. Even back then, when I was a little girl, I could see my father, his siblings, even my older cousins taking this craft of storytelling and making it their own. Family dinner tables always shook with their booming voices, wild gestures, and uncontrollable laughter. I remember family reunions in Easton. When I remember these, I think of, a good drink, pranks so elaborate that they bordered on interactive narratives, and all of the old sailor's tale, like my dad getting stranded, that I would hear over dinners and while sitting at the dock at Sunset Hall. And how all 50-something of us were just different mutations of everything my grandfather and grandmother had ever been together. The last time I saw Pop-Pops, he had trouble speaking, and in this past year, I have often wondered why God took the storyteller's voice away in his final months on earth. He'd shakily written out on his whiteboard that he had a good life, no regrets, and this brought me peace. But after a few days in the nursing home, he told me that he had so many more stories to tell. On March 9th, all I could think was that some of these will be lost forever. I have forgotten who I am in the past year, but Ed Powers has built the tapestries of stories, memories, lessons, and people by which I remember. His legacy has left an indelible mark on my soul, and I am blessed to have the birthright in the name Powers, an identity to return to when everything in my life is falling apart like it is for so many now. I've often wondered how to interface my existence at a big tech school, learning all these new things, meeting all these new people, with a family legacy of faith and tradition and scrappy street marts and bootstrapping. And I don't know if I have the correct answer quite yet, but I know that I hold the spirit of Ed Powers in my soul, now and forevermore. Thank you for listening. Anyone else? Take a mic. Yay! I don't know how to do this. I'm just gonna hand it over.
Well, first you'll learn that Colby's public speaking skills didn't come from being fortunate. And Candy is here as my wingman because I'm not sure I'm going to get through this.
I hope you do. My number is.
It was George Burns that once said, and I quote, "Happiness is hang on one second.
We need glasses.
Happiness is having a large, loving, caring, close-knit family in another city." If that's true, Mom and Dad enjoyed a truly delightful retirement together. Between their children and grandchildren, we have all 4 time zones accounted for, and if not all, almost all climates, north to south, covered across the nation. Burns would have probably called that heaven. However, I don't think Mom and Dad thought that was quite so heavenly. To support that theory, I present to you 2 key pieces of evidence. Sunset Hall and their winter home at the Terra Country Club in Bradenton, Florida. 2 homes that only fools would buy if they enjoyed having their families in other cities. With the purchase of Sunset Hall, Mom and Dad fulfilled a number of retirement goals they set for themselves, including a home on the water, a 40-foot sailboat, and I propose, above all, a place to which their family would want to return home as frequently as they could. As time passed and as children's careers, families, and life in general kept us from returning home as often as they would have liked, Mom and Dad ensured a regular migration to Sunset Hall by hosting family reunions. We've all been to them, and we've all talked about them with fond memories to this day. In their true giving fashion, the invitation was open to immediate and extended families as well as friends that wanted to come. It gave us all an opportunity to reminisce, catch up, and enjoy each other's company. For those days brought everyone in our families closer together. In Mom and Dad's Bradenton home, Dad displayed a bumper sticker on the kitchen counter. It read, "I childproof our house, but they still get in." Okay, Candy and I gave it to him. Dad played along with the jokes, sayings, and witticisms about kids and family at home. But this was merely a pretense. Bringing our families together through family reunions and holiday gatherings helped shape that large, loving, caring, close-knit family. That is what made Mom and Dad's lives together purposeful and truly rewarding. Thank you.
So, how did we get so lucky? Not very common these days for two people to be married 66 years. All right. 66 years, Mom. Very uncommon. It's not common to have a father who reached the level of success that he did. And I remember his answer to the question, what drives you? Of course, I have a wife and 6 kids at home. His family drove him to success. Mom was driven too, driven to raise 6 kids and save every penny she could. Cutting coupons, darning socks, and shoe goo for our sneakers. With Dad earning and Mom saving, they got to the point they could buy their retirement home at Sunset Hall and start giving back through their churches and charities. But also to the children. Thank you to Dad and Mom. Thank you for your generosity as it helped pay for Katie and Caroline's education. As we say goodbye to Dad, I will always remember the train tracks in Lake Forest, the Big Boulder and Dad's first sailboat in East Greenwich, tall Christmas trees in Elmira, our trip to Europe. Sorry, Claudia and Chris. Sailing with Dad, oysters off the dock, steaming blue crabs. Dad's whiskey sours, family cruises, family reunions, troll hunts, doe doves, Easter egg hunts, and of course, sunsets over the Trudavon. Mostly, I'll remember his love for life. They say the best we can hope for in life is to leave a legacy. Dad left a legacy in each one of us. So, thank you, Dad, and God bless you. Thank you, Mom, and God bless you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for our family. Thank you for being you.
Well, this will be very quick, but to Ed, I owe all my happiness. And I owe him that happiness from just 2 pieces of advice that he provided. One to Claudia and 1 piece of advice to me. And in each case, I will suggest it's the best piece of advice that either Claudia ever got or that I ever got. The one is sui generis to Claudia, the second I commend to all of you. As to Claudia, a number of years ago, she was home, and he was asking her about where she was thinking of going with her life and how she was thinking of her social endeavors and such. And she said, well, you know, I did have this fellow at work, a lawyer who tried calling me, and you know, nothing else has happened. And Ed, without skipping a beat, says, Claudia, call the lawyer back. Just the lawyer. Okay, well, she did. So that was great. The piece of advice that he gave me, because I guess now he felt he was somewhat invested in the relationship, was to say, Charlie, Claudia is very creative, and she is going to have many, many wonderful and somewhat artistic ideas. Whatever she says, I suggest a single response, and that is, darling, I love it. It works like a charm. I commend it to all of you. And thank you, Ed.
Okay, so, I probably should have been second to last. What can you say about my father that has not already been said? He had an exceptional career that he worked very hard for. He and my mother raised a wonderful family, which they worked very hard at. He had a great marriage for 66 years, which he worked very hard at. He was a great dancer, which I suspect he worked hard at with his sisters, as they were always fantastic on the dance floor. He and my mother put together great family reunions for all of the extended family, which had become folklore in the family. I assure you that they worked very hard to pull off those incredible events. Even when doing his favorite leisure activity, sailing, he was not truly happy unless he was working hard to be any visible sailboat to wherever they were going. It didn't matter where we were going, we were going to follow that sailboat and beat their ass. He was an incredibly independent person and never liked to be reliant on anyone. But much to his chagrin, we have given credit to our mother for keeping him alive for the last 5 years of his life. But even then, he fought hard to do all he could do on his own. When we children tried to assist him with regular daily tasks, he would shoo us away and insist on doing it himself. So, if you are an observant person, you may have noticed a common theme in all these points about his life. He was an incredibly hard worker. They say the harder you work, the luckier you get. If this was the case, Ed was one of the luckiest people alive. At the end of his life, he repeatedly stated how blessed his life was. And on a more personal level, I credit my father for instilling in me my love of mechanical things. As a young boy, he would bring me mechanical toys from around the globe. These were not your average kid toys, but sophisticated wind-up toys that included cars that had differentials and working suspensions, submarines that would submerge and surface. Great stuff. As a teen, he encouraged me when I wanted to build radio-controlled airplanes. This was at a time when you had to build your own radio. Even though there were many times when I brought my airplane home in many pieces, he did not discourage me from continuing my hobby. During high school, I had decided that the family car was burning too much oil and that I was going to take it apart and rebuild it. I said, that he actually let me do this was amazing. I had never rebuilt that engine. I had to go to the library to find a book that would tell me what to do. And although the project turned out okay, Dad had to have a lot of faith in my abilities to let me loose on that one. As an adult, he still fed my love of machines. He bought me a set of toy trains from Germany. These trains were all metal construction, but were built with the latest digital technology in order to enhance their performance and make them a lot more fun. I love these trains, and the collection grew to a collection of over 100 train cars and engines that have engaged my children and me with hours of entertainment. So, in closing, I just want to thank you, Dad, for the gift of curiosity in my life and where it has taken me. Thank you very much, Dad.
Hello. I'm just going to I wanted to kind of paraphrase. I wrote a little thing about Ed for our company newsletter. Just talking about what a lot of people probably don't know is after my father, Greg, had passed away, so we're looking at about 11 years ago now. We were, Dolly and I were kind of in a, bad spot in terms of knowing anything about how to run a business. So Ed actually came up and stayed up in Troy for a solid 2 weeks, and he wanted to kind of train me a little bit on how to run the business and everything. And I always tell people, and I'm absolutely positive that Richard and Stephen went through this on a daily basis, but I learned more in those 2 weeks than I've learned in the last 11 years now. And you know, like I'd get to work at 8 a.m. and of course he had beat me there. And he'd be just like tearing through stuff, like just going nonstop. And you know, we met with our banker and he like, you know, scared the banker so bad. I don't think he ever wanted to come back. And just like, he said so many things that just have stuck with me over the years. So I'm truly, you know, and on top of that, I just want to say, you know, he would take us out to dinner most nights and, you know, he would have us laughing and we, you know, I mean, this was at, you know, a week or two after my father had died. But he, you know, he really kept our spirits up and was so encouraging. And, you know, now that I'm a father, I get it, you know, I mean, you know, he had lost his son, you know, and he was grieving, but he wanted to make sure his son's family was taken care of and that, you know, his son was honored in his death. And he did that, and I'll be forever grateful for what he did, so, thank you.
I got a memory I just want to talk about.
When we were at Easton, I was very young. I was looking out the telescope that you guys all know about that would look across the bay, and Pop House came up to me and he said, "Look, I was looking at the shore across the bay, the beach, this just really that one area." He said, "Look everywhere. There's always something to see." And being a creative mind, that reached me in a lot of. It meant more than just one thing, and I think it was meant to. Now I hope to travel the world, and that's all from Ed. And I still repeat that to myself every day. Look everywhere. There's always something to see. That's something I take with me all the time. So I just wanted to say that.
So, as you can see, Grandpa had a lot of effects on everybody here. Lasting impact. We have grandkids getting up, we have kids getting up. I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I was tearing up earlier with some of the stuff. So, you can tell that he's just had a significant impact on a lot of our family. I just wanted to say, like, Grandpa was, sorry. He's smart, got it, fuck it. He kept his family together with Grandma, instilled those values of family and hard work, and it really shows when his kids, Claudia, Stephen, Richard, Dad, Donna, come up to Delaware and take care of Grandma and Grandpa. And when Mom, Dad, when you guys get older, I promise to do the same thing.
Thank God.
I really do. And Mom, I'm kind of concerned about you. I'm really concerned about you. I'm going to take care of you guys. That's all I want to say.
So, I guess, common theme here is a lot of the influence that Grandpa had on our family, but I think we've also heard a lot about kind of the more extended, broader influence that he's had. I think at Mass we heard, a lot of the wonderful things that that Grandma and Grandpa were able to do in their parish and beyond through the church. Be a little closer to the mic here. Pick it up. All right. And I also think about the times when my family was able to bring our friends from school down to Easton to go on a sailboat, and we've got lots of videos and good memories with our extended family in Troy, with people who fondly remember good times in Easton with Grandma and Grandpa and on the boat, and even today, my wife Zue was watching the live stream of the funeral today and was following along, and she's been taking an online calligraphy class these past few months, and every day they work through some practice ropes and write something out and share it out with a broader audience online. And today her calligraphy meditation was money is like manure. So it's no good unless you spread it around. So that went out to thousands of people today. And I think it just kind of speaks to when somebody has a lot of influence, that kind of carries on, has ripple effects across a broad audience.
Okay, like Charlie, I'm a Marian, not a blood relative. I have one story about Ed and one thing to say. So I worked at a company that was headquartered in Painted Post, New York, which is near Elmira, where Ed was the CEO of Kennedy Valve. And I worked with a guy, his name was Gordon, I can't remember his last name, but he was head of our IT function, and he had worked at Kennedy Valve. And I was married at that point. This was young. I was young before I had kids. And some of you have heard this story, but my last name was Powers, and he asked me, he said, "Are you related to Ed Powers?" And I knew of Ed's famous temper. And so I was a little hesitant to acknowledge it, but I said, well, kind of. I'm married to his son. And he said, and he kind of hesitated for a moment. He doesn't know whether he should tell me this story or not, but then he decides to go for it, and I'm sure I was encouraging, like, tell me. So the story is, he started with Ed's famous temper. He said, well, something like, your father-in-law is noted for his energy and his intelligence and his temper. I said, yes, I'm aware of that. So here's the story. So he was in charge of the IT department in Kennedy Valve. And apparently he was supposed to hire a programmer to do something or other. And it had taken a while to find this programmer. So one day he's walking down the hallway with another guy next to him, Gordon, the IT guy, is walking down the hallway with another guy next to him, and he runs into Ed Powers walking the other way in the hallway. And Ed starts into him. Gordon, it's taken freaking, months to hire. When are you going to get this guy on board? And Gordon turns to Ed and to this other guy. He says, Ed, he's here, and I'm taking him around. This is his first day. I want you to meet John Doe. And Ed, without missing a beat, and this is what Gordon loved to tell about this story, without missing a beat, puts out his hand. He says, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Shakes his hand and tells a joke. That's Ed Powers. So I love that story, and I've told that story to a bunch of people. But as somebody who married into the family, I thought I would just say that I don't want to speak for everybody here who is married in, but I know some of us feel this way. I always say I feel as much part of the Powers family as I feel of my own family. I've always been welcomed. It's always been a loving family, and it's really mom and dad who set that standard for how we treat the people that are welcomed into our family, not from birth, but from other circumstances. And so I'm blessed to be part of the Powers family.
I feel the need to just get up and say something. First of all, I want to say that I met this family when I was 17. I just turned 17. Donna was in kindergarten. She thinks that I am part of the family. I am part of the family. And I was telling her today how when the first time I saw her, she was sitting in the little tiny rocker. I think Maggie has it now. And she was sitting in front of the TV and she was watching Sesame Street. And I didn't have little siblings. So I'm like looking at Sesame Street, I'm looking at this little girl, and I'm already madly in love with her brother. It was like we met, and we met in October at a drama club performance, and oh my gosh, he was this tall blonde guy, and he comes over and he's talking, Greg. He was talking to me, and I was like, oh my. And of course, Greg's story is, Dolly, I saw you before in that short purple miniskirt at the drama club. I'm like, oh. So anyway, so I met him when I was 17 in October. By December, we knew we loved each other and that we wanted to marry. So that was like in a short, 2 months time that, we had dedicated ourselves to each other. I don't know if everybody knows that, but that's how, that was love at first sight. And what I want to just tell everybody is the nurturing love that is just a thread from Ed to Greg to Chris to Richard to Stephen. All of these men just are very loving and nurturing men. And to be a Powers Marion, as Beth and I call each other, we are the luckiest women alive. We really are. And we know that. And I think that really all comes from Dad. He was he worried to the day he died about his family. And, I was just very much thrilled to be a part of that. And I thank God every day that I was welcomed into this family.
Encore.
Well,
Wait a minute. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm just going to tell everybody, the whole manure thing is from
Hello.
It's true, it's the movie.
So I just wanted to follow up on a few things that after I've heard about Ed's drive and competitiveness. When I was looking to make a career change in '97, Ed asked me to look into the family company in Milwaukee. And Richard was already there, and I talked to Richard about it, and Candy was curious about Milwaukee and, okay, how cold does it really get? To which Richard responded, well, last year we had a week where it didn't get above 0. And Candy on the phone says, he's kidding, right? But anyway, I spoke to Greg about this, working for the family company, and Greg, I think he may have offered the same advice to Richard. Greg said, Stephen, I don't know what you want to do, but whatever you do, don't work for Dad. But also, something that was talked about his temper, I have to read this from his VP of sales when he retired from Mueller Company that talks about Ed's temper. And his name was Bob Lyons. Mom knows him well. He starts out his retirement speech, when talking about Ed, so many memories come flooding back. I find it difficult to sort out the highlights. Almost from the moment we met, things began to happen, many of which I would rather forget. For instance, on my very first trip with Ed, I discovered life was not always calm in the Powers world. I know you will find it difficult to believe that Ed loses his temper, but I can assure you, the very first time we traveled, he did. We were to fly to Chicago to meet with one of my ex-employers on an early morning commuter flight from Decatur. Ed showed up 5 minutes before the flight time, and they had sold his seat. Needless to say, Ed was not happy. When the ticket agent tried to explain to him that he only took tickets for that particular carrier, or not only took the tickets for that particular carrier, but worked for Decatur Aviation, Ed was not satisfied. In fact, I still remember his comments, quote, "You take the tickets, God damn it, you take the guff." After calmly throwing his briefcase clear across the airport and raising his voice to a decibel level, which would cause OSHA to issue a citation. Hang on a second. Airport security showed up. I could tell the security guard was confident he had his gun drawn. Being a prudent man and seeing the gun, Ed quickly calmed down. He went over and gathered his briefcase contents, threw them back in the bag, and we called Mike Heidemann to fly us to Chicago.
Okay, hi. Mine's gonna be really quick. I just felt like we needed to kind of redeem ourselves a little bit. So, just gonna quickly touch on what I think Mark kind of wanted to cover. When we would go and visit Grandma and Papa, Papa was always very interested in what we were interested in, which was great. We got to talk to him about, what we were enjoying at the time, and he kind of made us a little bit more passionate, or just excited to be passionate about something. And one example is Mark with the Yankees, and they'd be talking about the Yankees, there'd be a game on, and Mark would be like, well, yeah, I bet the Yankees are gonna win. And Papa would be like, well, how much do you want to bet? Mark's like, I don't know, 8. So Mark's like, oh, $10, $20. So they started betting on these games, and it was always a fun thing, and kind of might have spawned into a little bit of a gambling problem, currently. Something we're trying to work on, but it made Mark full of passion, and the rest of us with any other thing, outside the Yankees. But it's carried on to this day, and made us enjoy the things that we like outside of working and stuff, just being passionate about extra things as well. So I just kind of wanted to, I think Mark wanted to talk about that. I wanted to cover it and also say that extended to the rest of us as well. And Mark, seek help for your gambling.
Okay, this is going to be short and sweet because I'm really not good at this. But I'm a little bit better than Mark. Sorry.
Sit down right now.
And I don't have my reading glasses on. I wrote a post, it's Facebook, but I wrote a post, and it's short and sweet, but I wrote that you could write a book about, I don't have my reading glasses, you could write a book about his career accomplishments, his world achievements, and his extensive philanthropy. But his greatest achievement was his devotion to his family. His social charm, wit, and savvy will be greatly missed, but he will be more sorely missed as just dead. And this is going to be random, just resonating on a couple things that Father Eber said in the eulogy. Dad always said to us, never be afraid to take risks. And I think I have in life. So I'm like, I'm ready. But that was how he lived his life. Like everybody said, his sailing, his endeavors, everything was like, he just wanted to live every morning and work and live. And the other thing is, my parents' charity is something that I am beside myself, because I don't think anybody knows how much charity and philanthropy that they have done, and we don't even know, because she works the boats. Everywhere I go that has something affiliated with my parents, they're like, oh, well, your parents did this, your parents do that. I remember taking Amanda and Sarah many years ago to do some food pantry, or was it called a food bank service in Easton, and we walk in and they're like, oh, you're Anna Doris's, daughter and grandchildren? Well, like, oh, well, they just donated the walk-in freezer we needed so badly. And I had no idea. They just never talk about their charities. And every time I'm with them, like even the other day in Mom's room, somebody called and was thanking her and Dad for helping her, and I think it was the music and ministry. Yes.
Chris, because she
Yes.
the music director.
Right. But there are so many things that I know, and even to the point where, and I don't know the full story, Mom, but you and Dad, I think we went to Turkey, you were on a cruise or something, or a trip, and you started talking to a little girl who wanted to practice her English. Is that right? In Turkey? And you wanted to practice, yes.
Yeah.
And so you continued to write this little girl in English and correspond with her. And I think you ended up buying her a computer.
Yeah.
And she ended up going to college? Is it?
After a while, she went to medical school.
Medical school.
I don't know whether it has something to do with the political atmosphere in that country at the time, but she never wrote back. It was just after many years. So,
Well,
it was interesting.
the point was, you helped this little girl. You wanted to correspond with her, you touched her life to the point where she continued to write to you. And thank you for your help. So that is a pretty special, and I'm sure there are many stories we don't even know about. So we love you and Dad. Dad, we're gonna miss you.
Also gonna try to keep this short and sweet. Just want to give a small thing. And we've obviously talked a lot about Ed today, of course. And a lot of things have been said. And one of the things in my life that is something I love is our family, obviously. I mean, just the connection we have, and you can obviously see it here. Like, the different generations of siblings and the joking, it's just everyone connected and loving and supportive, and every time we get together, it's so just refreshing and energizing. I truly love gathering with every single one of you. You are incredibly fun, you're all smart. I really foresee a day in the future when the Powers name is a legitimate dynasty for the United States. I mean, there are so many of us, and we are just incredible, yes. And that is obviously all due to Ed and Doris, Papa and Grandma, and their hard work and dedication to the family that they have. And so thank you very much, Papa and Grandma, because, I mean, look at us.
I'm going to be pretty quick here too, but one of the things I remember most is that Pop-Pops would always say, "Kyle makes me smile." And I always just that's what he really would have wanted from us, is there's just so much to be happy about, to remember, and we're just so lucky to have a great family that's so close. And I'm here, and I know we're at a funeral, but I just can't stop smiling from being all around you, and just so many happy memories. So, and I know that's what he would have wanted.
Well, I was gonna bring a letter that I actually wrote to Pop, but I forgot it. But that'll be between me and him. This is a pretty short story as well. But so a few years back, my car died, and I was like, okay, it's fine. And Grandma and Pop were generous to give me their CRV, and I had this tradition where I always named my cars. And so I got in this car, and for a while I was like, my friends and everyone was like, what are you gonna name your car? And I was like, I don't know. I got it from my grandparents, not sure yet. Because it's kind of a meaningful thing for me. And I remember one day, I was like, I'm gonna name it Pop. And so every day when I drive, I always think of my grandfather. And I remember the other week, whenever I have a hard day or a hard week, I always sit in that car. Even though it's just a car, I always think of my grandfather and everything. And I remember the other week I said, Pop, what do I do? I don't know. So I always just keep him with me, and wherever I go and travel and wherever I am in this world, he's always with me. So.
Hi, I just wanted to talk a little bit about like the traditions and like how much of a spread of like Grandpa has had on everyone else. Like the troll, when I would come home, I don't know, 7, 6 years old, and I tell people that a troll haunted our family with a chainsaw, they look at me a little funny. Maybe a little scared, actually, that a troll haunted us. And my sister and I actually came to find out that there are a lot of doors at Sunset Hall, because we would check every single one to make sure the troll would not move, because we'd see him in the closet and we'd check every single day to make sure he wasn't haunting us. There weren't red eyes in the forest or anything like that. And trying to explain that to my friends, they're like, it's just the traditions and like the things that we would just get together and do. Like the time that my sister and I almost got recruited for a traveling Polish dance team when we were in Kent Island. And like, I've never met a man like Grandpa who, you know, when we were younger, we'd wake up at 8 a.m., be excited for dough-dobs, and then, you know, when we reached about 16, waking up before 10 seemed like a monstrosity. But dough-dobs were still ready, no matter what time I woke up at, and breakfast was never to be skipped, no food was ever to be skipped. They were always there providing for us and investing in our future. And there was just something about Sunset Hall that had like a magic about it, and like going there was just like a resort. You know, I'd go on the Range Rover, I'd go in the pool, go on Muscle Beach and collect all the mussels and bring them in, even though you probably shouldn't be bringing them inside. And so I just wanted to thank you and Grandma for everything that you've done and provided for me, and all the traditions that I've been able to share with my friends. Even dough-dobs, they're all amazed by them every single time they come to my house. And we make them, they're expecting waffles, and it's just something so much better. And I just wanted to thank both of you for everything that you've provided for everyone here. So, thank you.
Deep breath.
Deep breath.
So a lot of people have told their stories. Boys. I'm not even talking. I haven't started. I know, I'm just trying to collect myself here. So as many of you know, I have spent a lot of time with Mom and Dad over the last 8 or 9 months, ever since they came up from Florida in early May, and getting them prepared to move up here to Wilmington. And for those of you who don't know, I live only 2 miles away from them, so I'm there all the time. I've seen Mom and Dad. Well, in the past few months, I've seen Dad almost every day. Mom maybe 3 times a week. just wanted to share some of the things, not the stories from way back, but the little things in the last few months that I'm gonna miss about my father. Many of you know that Dad was an early riser. I've heard that before. I'm an early riser too. And I will miss the times, the days. I spent many days down in Easton with Mom and Dad. And I could hear Dad. I would sleep in the bedroom above the kitchen, and I could hear Dad up 6 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and he was getting the pots and pans out and making breakfast. And I would go down, and we would have some time to talk, just he and I, just talk about things, just things. And then Mom would come. She's a little later riser, but she would appear in the kitchen in her bathrobe, and Dad would get up and go and give her a big hug and say, "How's my sweetie this morning?" He did that almost every morning. I love that. I will miss the way he insisted on doing his routine chores. I would sometimes I would go to visit him every day, and would time my visits so that I didn't get him too early in the morning. But there are times I'd show up and he's there mopping the kitchen floor. You know, he was pretty frail. He was getting quite frail and couldn't walk very well. But there I am, here he is with a mop, and he would tell me that he's gotten up, he's done laundry, mopped the kitchen floor, and I'm like, oh my God. But you know, his sense of independence drove him to do these things. He was like, no, I can do these things. And he wanted to do these things, and I let him do these things, even though I wanted to help him. I had to hold myself back and let him do things so that he could feel like he had a sense of purpose. I will miss the days where I was there in the afternoon, and he would tell me, he says, you need to go. You need to go. And when he didn't say these things, he was writing it on his whiteboard because he couldn't speak. And he'd say, you need to go home to Charlie. I said, oh, okay, Dad. I said, you know, Charlie can take care of him. He said, no, you need to go. And he'd say, several times he said to me, he says, don't neglect your marriage. And I said, I'm not neglecting my marriage. I said, Charlie is one of the most supportive people I have in what I'm trying to do for you and Mom. I will miss the days, those days where Charlie sometimes was out of town, and I would spend evenings with Dad and have dinner with him. And I will miss the times where he would say, do his little gesture, want a little drink, a glass of wine. And he stopped drinking alcohol at that point, but I would have my glass of wine, he would have his glass of his non-alcoholic wine. Occasionally, though, he would make me a whiskey sour, and I'll tell you what, the last one, I was like, holy crap, Dad, what are you trying to do to me? It was so strong, and he said, and he wrote on his board, the ice hasn't melted yet. I'll also remember, and I will miss, he was very well organized, our Dad, as you might imagine. He had his files all sorted out. He spent months making sure that I knew everything that he had in place for Mom, so that when the time came, we knew what to do. And I do know what to do. And so Mom is very well taken care of. I will remember the way when people came to visit him, and all of you, many of the grandchildren have come to visit him at various times over the last 8 months or so, and how much joy that brought to him. And his smile, you know, in the later part of his life, it was difficult for him, but you know, Richard and his family came over Christmas time, and they had a great time. I'm sure he was smiling a lot. It was great to see his smile, and I will miss that. I also miss the way that he was always very grateful for people when they did little things for him. And again, he couldn't speak, and he had a gesture, and he would, of thankfulness, and it was this. And so I will leave this with you, Dad's gesture for gratefulness, for you being here,